Test 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, this is Supervisor Christie. Am I being heard?
Loud and clear, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good morning. I'm sorry. I just realized it's 9:04. It's time to get started. So welcome to, it's Tuesday, July 2nd, our Pima County Board of Supervisors meeting. Can I ask for a roll call to establish quorum, please?
Supervisor Christie,
Here.
Supervisor Hines, Supervisor Lee. Here. Supervisor Scott.
Here.
Chair Grijalva.
Here.
Let the record show Supervisor Christie is participating remotely. Supervisor Hines is not present. All other board members are present.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Mary Calso here. She is Risk Management Program Coordinator with Finance and Risk Management Department. And I'm wondering if you would lead us in the pledge, please. And thank you so much for being here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and with the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. How long? Wait. I want to ask you a question. Come on. How long have you been with Pima County?
Almost 6 years.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. And so what specifically do you do in the department? And you have a support team
I have
here.
my
That's
support
very
team,
nice.
Maria Luna and Christina Garcia. I do several things. I collect for subrogation. I collect for damages. If our vehicles are damaged, property is damaged, I also get our restitution back. I assist Maria with claims. I run a lot of our loss reports for different departments. I do quite a bit of things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all your service and what you do for Pima County.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, support system, for being here. Okay, and now we have our land acknowledgement. There is a change on the agenda. We're lucky to have Amanda Monroy. She is a senior program manager, the Office of Policy, Resilience, and Equity, the Pima County Health Department. And I'll go ahead and let you get started.
Okay. Oh, Mike's right here. On behalf of the Pima County residents, we honor the tribal nations who have served as caretakers of this land from time immemorial and respectfully acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the multi-millennial presence of the Pascua Yaqui tribe within Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive towards building equal partner relationships with Arizona's tribal nations.
Thank you. Wait. I have to bug you too. So you've been with Pima County since 2019. You started in D5 with Supervisor Elias, and then were with our office until the first year of COVID, and then you moved to the health department and have been promoted to several positions. And I understand you're leaving Pima County on August 1st.
Yes.
Why?
I am going to St. Louis to attend law school.
Congratulations. If we're going to lose you anywhere, yay. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done for Pima County. I know that you were working in really difficult times and transitioning departments and all of that. And I wish you luck. And I'm your Facebook friend, so I'll stalk you and see how you're doing. But I appreciate you coming down here. Thank you and good luck. Thank you. Okay. All right. Can we discuss agenda adjustments really quickly?
Okay. On the regular agenda, page 8, item 21, this is the Sun Corridor contract. This item will be heard at a time certain of 10:30. On page 8, item 26, this is the contract with Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, Inc. Staff requests this item be removed from the agenda. On page 12, item 49, it is under Development Services, the hearing, the conditional use permit for P23CU00012. The applicant requests this item be heard prior to consideration of agenda items number 50 and 51. And then on page 13, items 50 and 51, these are the hearings for rezoning closures. These items are contingent upon approval of agenda item number 49. On page 13, item 52, it is under Development Services, resolution number 2024-33. There's a correction to the resolution type. It should be a comprehensive plan amendment resolution. And on the addendum, page 1, item 1, the executive session, this item will be heard at a time certain of 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have staff members from different departments for different items. So once we get through call to the audience, I'll ask if we'd like to move those up as well. We have pause for pause, and we have a guest. Cutie patootie.
Oh, no. Come here, Papa. Oh, I know. I know. Good boy. Good morning, everyone. Santiago. I have Santiago here with me. He is a 6-year-old shepherd. He's being very good. He is. Come here. Good boy. Sorry. He is a dog that came in stray, and that is something that we are really concerned about this week, of course, with the 4th of July right around the corner. He'd like to say hello. Pat, oh. He's got personality for sure. In the week following the 4th of July, we typically get in 250 to 300 dogs.
For those of you who can't see, we saw
Yeah, there's another dog.
there's another puppy here. There's some friends. There you go.
Thank you. Yes, he's a super love bug. He just wants to say hi. Thank you very much. So back to what I was saying, we got about 200 to 350 dogs come in the week following the 4th of July, typically. So we are definitely concerned about that with it right around the corner. So some of the things that you can do to prepare is to make sure your dog has that collar and ID tag on, right? To make sure that we can get them home as soon as possible if they are lost. It's really important to remember that we all love our dogs and we think it won't be our dog that gets lost. And unfortunately, those are many of the dogs that do end up getting lost. So it's really important to prepare, again, that collar and ID tag, setting them up for success on the day of, keeping them in a calm, quiet area. All of that stuff is really important to keeping the pets safe. And of course, if you don't have a pet, or if you're ready to add one, even temporarily, we're looking for fosters always, even just short term over the holiday. So thank you so much. Sorry, Santiago is a hooligan, and we really appreciate you having
Hi,
us.
thank you so much. Now we're on call to the public. We have 4 speakers, so every speaker will have 3 minutes. That's okay. We're still under. So citizens attending meetings shall observe rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the board may be removed by the sergeant at arms if directed by the chair. Such person may be barred from further audience before the board. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stomping of feet, whistling, yells, or similar demonstration shall not be permitted by the chair, who may direct offenders from the room. With that, we have 8 speakers. If anyone else has a speaker card, please bring it up. I'll call you in groups of 3. We have Mike Aaron, Lori Moore, and Corey Stevens.
My name is Mike Aaron. I am a resident of Pima County. I'm going to talk about item 3, the removal of client attorney privilege. Last time I know, people in the health department or on the city board, county board, are not legislatures. Only the state representatives for the House of Representatives and the Senate can change law. You guys can't. And I don't know why you want to put a health thing on it from the county health board. Guns are a tool. That man there has one and uses it as a tool. The gentlemen back here have one. They use it as a tool. A gun cannot hurt people. Only the person who puts their trigger finger on it hurts someone. Guns are a tool. They're also a Second Amendment right. So vote no on this because it's not going to fly. Thank you.
Lori Moore?
Good morning. My name is Laurie Moore. I'm a legal citizen of the United States of America with all the constitutional rights and privileges that come with that distinction. I live in District 1. My supervisor is Rex Scott. Since taking office in 2021, Supervisor Scott, along with the Democrats on this board, have spent in excess of $1.4 billion above previous budget projections. This has doubled Pima County's budget in the last 4 years. This board is prohibited by state law from increasing tax rates and expenditures after setting a budget. Do the citizens know that? We now owe for the interest on this borrowed money. District 1 residents and all of Pima County are paying for this financial mismanagement. Supervisor Scott, along with the left-leaning Board of Supervisors members, have increased the primary property tax rate 3 years in a row. Our fixed income population cannot afford any tax increases of any kind, period. Yet Supervisor Scott and the Democrats increased the budget again for 2024 and 2025. Supervisor Scott and the Dems are for big government and big spending. They have accepted $98 million in federal tax dollars to subsidize the importing of unvetted illegal aliens. Rex and the others have voted repeatedly to fund the non-government organizations, the NGOs, that keep fentanyl, child trafficking, and illegal immigrants flowing through our southern border, enticing illegal border crossers with free hotel stays, free food, free medicine, free transportation to anywhere, and a generous $5,000 gift card for every man, woman, and child. Pima County citizens have never had this first-class treatment bestowed upon them. Pima citizens got mandatory lockdowns out of businesses, mandatory public school closures for 2 years, mandatory vaccinations, and mandatory masking, only to see none of that matter when it comes to the open border. Your job has been fund the invasion, get the illegals in, and move them out of Tucson into the interior of the country within 2 days. You have moved approximately 475,000 illegal immigrants. This board should never have been in the business of taking care of illegals over its citizens. Come November, the voters will decide if illegals have first priority in Pima County.
Corey Stevens, followed by Gisela Aaron, Katie Woodall, and Patricia Marsh.
Things that make you go, Sun Corridor reporting a net ordinary income loss of $142,500. Yet the county contracted with this board of cronies to lead experts to generate economic development, workforce development, travel, and tourism. And I believe I even read an excerpt about early childhood development and daycare, i.e., sounds a lot like PEEPS. Are we paying our friends and donors to do jobs that can be done by county employees? At the last meeting, there was a lot of talk about safety and security. I too am concerned. What protects us from you? Do you and your staff go through metal detectors? Supervisor Higuera often carries a large backpack into this boardroom. Matt has even carried a black case into the boardroom himself. What contents are in those bags? Matt was so worried about the points of entry in this very boardroom, yet he is so foolish not to recognize the ill-placed metal detectors in the lobby. If you were truly worried about security, you'd have every person walking into this building pass through a metal detector. Lastly, you are throwing more money again at the illegal invasion, all the while ignoring the homeless, the crime, the wide open drug use, and the encampments, or shall I call them self-governing social experiments that you have allowed to go on at the expense of neighboring taxpayers. Neighborhoods like the ones next to the 100-acre park, whose residents' backyards are more secure than the border because they have lined their fences with Constantine wire to prevent cracked-out fentanyl zombies from robbing them. Oh, wait. There was $20,000 allocated in the 24-25 budget to clean up encampments. What a disastrous amount of money that you've provided to clean up encampments. Good luck getting rid of those homesteaders.
Gisela, Aaron?
Good morning. Please vote no on agenda item 24, supporting Catholic Community Services with federal money, grant money, $1.5 million. And I say no. I do not consent to financially support the invasion. Pima County Board members, I'm calling you out for your continued reliance on federal grants and your redistribution of local charities. When you accept federal grant dollars, you are voluntarily relinquishing local jurisdiction to federal control. Do not betray us. Do not bankrupt America. Do not overthrow America to the benefit of foreign control of the United Nations and others that have benefited tremendously from the pandemic. Why don't you help lawful citizens, for example, by lowering their property taxes? After all, Scottsdale and Paradise Valley pay much less than we do here in Tucson, and that's not fair. We should not pay for any insurrection or sponsor this. You appear to participate in trafficking of human victims who often bring here sickness or unknown disease. You are thereby endangering all of us. People, be aware. The bird flu is on the horizon. Please look up all available information before it's censored. Importantly, not all vaccines are safe or effective. 6-foot distancing or masking is unscientific and useless. The Pima County Board's bad decisions of lockdowns have crashed the economy and it negatively affected the election. We hold you accountable if you try it again in this year's election. Consider you are violating your oath of office. You are aiding and abetting our enemies with human trafficking and fentanyl distribution. Fentanyl is killing more than 100,000 Americans a year. It is treason if you participate in the overthrow of our country by redirecting federal monies to charities that handle the invasion. We know this is done deliberately, and you want to force the revolution of the one world order. Anyone that participates, including you, Ms. Lee, you have not been voted in. You have been appointed. Do not vote for this. It constitutes treason. I'm asking you, do not vote on item 24 to redistribute our money. This is aiding and abetting
your time
Article 3,
expired.
Section
Katie
3 of the
Woodall?
U.S. Constitution.
Ma'am,
May
your time
God have
expired.
mercy on you.
Thank you. And followed by Patricia Marsh, Joel Tiger, and Sandra Tracy.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Katie Woodall. I am a gun violence survivor, and I'm here to ask for transparency and for you to support the removal of attorney-client privilege from expansion of background checks for firearm purchase memorandum. I'm here to put a face to statistics. Like I said, I am a gun violence survivor of the worst mass shooting to date on U.S. soil, in which an assailant using an assault rifle killed 60 people and wounded 413 people like myself. You say guns don't hurt people. Yeah. I'm here to say they do. Let me tell you a little bit about not just the physical wounds I suffered. The gunshot did tremendous damage to my body, which took me months to recover from. But what I'm here to talk about is the psychological damage that was done to me. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder like so many gunshot wound victims. Here's just a few of the things I see regularly when my post-traumatic stress disorder is triggered. I see the sight of friends loading their friend's bullet-riddled body into a wheelbarrow that had been used for ice just minutes before. and running to the exit with him. I see the sight of men laying on top of lifeless bodies, trying to protect them. I hear the screams of people as they realize their loved ones had been mortally wounded. I feel the blood splatter on my face from the woman next to me who'd been shot in the neck. And I remember wondering for an instant, oh dear God, please don't let that be my husband, because I didn't have eyes on him at that moment. I hear the screams of the teenager in the triage room next to me, screaming, dear God, don't let me die alone, I just want my mother. We need to do something about gun violence in this country. It is not just the people, it's the guns. And guns at those gun shows are put in the hands of wrong people. People like the assailant that murdered 60 people that night because he had access to an assault rifle that he armed with a bump stock, allowing him to fire more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition into us in less than 10 minutes. Because we as a country don't have a handle on gun violence, innocent people are slaughtered. We were innocent civilians who went to a concert, and suddenly we found ourselves in the midst of a war zone. We need to do something, and this is the beginning, this transparency, this ending the sale of weapons at gun shows into the hands of wrong people.
Thank you. Patricia Marsh, thank you.
I'm Patricia Maish. I'm a very fortunate, physically uninjured survivor of the Gabby Gifford shooting, and I am in favor of revealing the correspondence, in favor of transparency. We need to know what we're up against. We need to know how we can help stem the tide of gun violence. And the man who said the gun is just a tool, that tool is in the hands of a person who purchased that tool. And it takes three things. It's a very intimate relationship between the man, the gun, and the ammunition. Takes all three. Sometimes guns even go off by themselves. There's a lawsuit against one of the gun manufacturers. So anyway, that's beside the point, or it's in addition to the point. So we need to know transparency so we can help stop the madness. And there's 100 people a day, over 100 people a day that are killed by a gun. 3/4 of those are suicides. But we can keep guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to self and others, and keep the county safe, keep this nation state. The Second Amendment is not limitless. It does have an opportunity to keep guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to self and others. And then Katie said most of what I was going to say too. So thank you. Please, please help us stop the dealers who claim to only be hobbyists. That's a drive-through Wendy's to pick up your gun out at the Pima County Fairgrounds. So thank you. And Rex Scott, I'm very proud that you're my supervisor, and I appreciate all that you do for the county.
Thank you. Joel Tiger, followed by Sandy Tracy, Stephen Eddy, and Mike Humphrey, and that is my last card.
Hey guys. So 10% of the property owners in an area do not have the right to control the other 90% of the properties. This is the first thing I said at the very first BOS meeting that I came to. And that meeting that Jeffrey Greenwell hosted the other night is proof of what I'm talking about. He admitted to me in an email that it was for homeowners only, property owners not invited. And if he wants to have a homeowners only meeting, that's perfectly fine. But when he invites our government officials and it becomes an official meeting about the zoning in our area, every property owner has a right to join, not be intentionally excluded. A notice was mailed to everyone who had a registered home. No notice was mailed to the property owners. We have no problem receiving notices from the county if we are in code violation or someone has complained about us. But we cannot receive a letter in the mail when there is a meeting about the zoning on our properties. Also, a flyer was posted on the Diamond Bell Ranch Facebook group. It's a private group, and it says it's a group for all of the Diamond Bell Ranch community. But if you try to join, it asks you, what is your address in Unit 9 or Unit 11? Those are the two sections with water and power and a fence around them to keep the cows out. All of the people at that meeting the other night were from those sections. But you can see, if you don't live in the neighborhood with water and power, you don't even get to join and be in the conversation on their Facebook group. Because, according to Jeffrey Greenwell on his website, Clean the Bell, the surrounding property is a barrier between their neighborhood and the rest of 3 Points. And the $8,500 impact fee keeps people who can't afford to live in the Diamond Bell area out of their neighborhood. My property is not a barrier for someone else's neighborhood. My property is my private property, and if there is an official meeting with our government officials, our county supervisor, our sheriffs, our zoning office about the zoning on my property, I have a right to attend. This is how these homeowners have created this bubble and completely silenced all of the property owners in the surrounding area over the decades. And this is why you have so much back taxes. Because when you look at these tax liens and you look at the back taxes, it is obvious that these property owners are on strike. Why would they not pay the taxes on a property when they can make so much more money selling the property? Because they bought the property in the 1970s under the promise of water and power. They never got it, and they get no voice because these 10% of homeowners benefit from having this undeveloped barrier that separates their $250,000 homes from the poor people of 3 Points. I bought 5 more tax liens this morning. I'm teaching people how to buy them, and I have a plan to get them sold. And Dr. Lee, I just saw your email from last night while I was sitting here. I will get back to you today, and thank you for getting back to me. I appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you, Sandra Tracy.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Tracy, and I am also part of the Diamond Bell Neighborhood Alliance. And like Joel before me, I'm rather upset that we were excluded from that meeting that included our government officials. So, Dr. Lee, with all due respect, I'm here to address you today. I've written it because I am angry and I don't want to get my emotions out of check, okay? I want to be composed. Pima County Ordinance 1801030 4 through 5 state that every property owner has the right to be heard, that no special privileges shall be given to any individual group, and that we are entitled to a balance of equities. We believe you've violated that ordinance. You, along with Captain Doug Amos and Lieutenant Gene Jacob of the Sheriff's Department and Zoning Administrator Carmen DeBonis, attended a private meeting at 6 p.m. on Thursday, June 27th at Serenity Baptist Church in 3 Points to discuss the CR1 zoning issues. That meeting was not open to all landowners. Only the people who own expensive houses and who have full utilities were invited to attend. We have pleaded with you to attend one of our meetings. Our meetings are open to everyone, but yet every request has been ignored. We're given 2 to 3 minutes at these meetings to plead our case, and the people with $250,000 home got a 2-hour audience. You refused to talk to us, but you chose to attend a meeting that was clearly intended to be about us. If that's not a violation of our right to be heard and preferential treatment toward those with $250,000 homes over those of us with $5,000 lots, then I don't know what is. If you bothered to listen to us, you might understand why we become so combative the minute we see Daniel Robledo. There are valid reasons. You may better understand why the current zoning renders approximately 4,000 affordable lots over the 15 units of Diamond Bell Ranch uninhabitable. You may like the potential solutions we want to offer. Our solutions would be beneficial to the landowners, the economy, and the county, but we can't present it in 2 to 3 minutes. The bottom line is that this entire issue is rooted in our alleged non-compliance with county ordinances. So I ask you, Dr. Lee, when do you comply with the county ordinance? Start leading by example and gather all of the facts, provide the balance of equities, and hear us out. That's all I have. Thank you.
Press 1 to be...
Thank you. I'm sorry, we're going to take a quick pause. We have an issue with the online streaming, so if we just hold on a moment, please, the audio.
You're being asked to unmute yourself. You're unmuted.
Audio test. Can you hear me now? Yeah, we're good. How about the speaker's microphone and the Diaz's microphone?
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Are we all, do you think we're all set? Okay, all right, thank you. Stephen Eddy, followed by Mike Humphrey, and Katja Peterson will be our last speaker.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. For the record, Stephen Eddy, 6222 East West Miramar. I am here in my official capacity to support item 21, but our CEO, Susan Gray, will be here to address that matter a little bit later. I am here actually to make a public comment as a private citizen, and it is a simple thank you. I spoke with Mr. DeBonis last week, and I was delighted to see Mount Lemon Road being paved last week. I can't speak for all cyclists in this community, but it is a huge improvement from the previous conditions. And so thank you, and I appreciate all the work that the county does with the roadways in our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike Humphrey?
Good morning. My name is Mike Humphrey. I'm a resident of Pima County, and I serve on the Pima County Board of Health. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm speaking in favor of addendum item number 3, which is to have the county attorney release the information regarding the county board supporting ATF Rule 2022R17. I wish to discuss with you today the agenda item dealing with Pima County's support in ensuring enforcement of ATF Rule 2022R17, which requires that private sellers of firearms must be screened to determine if they are in the business of selling firearms. If they are determined to be so, they would be required to obtain a federal firearms license and perform background checks of all purchasers of the firearms they are selling. The enforcement and prosecution under this rule would help ensure that prohibited possessors are not readily able to possess the firearms they use to maim and murder. It will be especially useful at firearm shows held on county property and within county limits. Enforcement and prosecution will not stop prohibited possessors from stealing the firearms, but will make it more difficult to obtain these weapons in other ways. If you have not already done so, I encourage the county to immediately take steps to make sure this rule is followed. To the letter, by persons organizing and/or participating in these firearm shows, county support is consistent with the board's authority to take action necessary to protect the public health and safety of our community. Even preventing one firearm from getting into the wrong hands can save a life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Katja Peterson? And if anyone else wishes to speak, please put in a card. Otherwise, Ms. Peterson will be our last speaker.
Good morning. My name is Katja Peterson, and I live at 2803 East 9th Street. I'm here actually to thank you, each and every one, for wherever, and you too, each and every one of you for looking at addendum item 3. We must do the right thing for our people, for our children. I'm not going to restate what Mike just said, but it's so important, and I know you all understand that. So I'm thanking you in advance. And the other thing is a very joyful thank you for supporting the urban wildlife refuge that you all have said. I think it's number 10. I forgot my glasses, so on the consent agenda. This is such a joyful item. This is such an amazing thing that you will be a part of, as I have been a part of as a board member of Mission Garden. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there are no other speakers, I'm going to go ahead and close the call to the public and ask my colleagues if they wish to ask staff to review a matter, wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda, or respond to a criticism.
Chair Gralba.
Supervisor Scott.
I was going to make this request of administration when we talked about addendum item number 3, but I think given the comments from Mr. Humphrey, I'm going to make this request now. Ms. Lesher, as you know, this board passed a resolution during the public comment period encouraging the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to pass the new regulation that they did dealing with private sales at gun shows. But this board, this community needs more of an understanding of who is going to make sure that those new regulations are followed, not only at the fairgrounds, but also at the Tucson Expo Center, which we know is within the county. So I would like to ask administration to follow up with the sheriff, with federal officials, with anybody who can give us more information as to who's going to be responsible for making sure those new federal regulations are enforced. Thank you, Chair Grijalva.
Thank you. Any other? Okay. Thank you all so much for coming in. Now we're going to go on to the agenda of the Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards. Item number, Flood Control District Board. We have item number 6 and 7. Wondering if we could take those together. I'll go ahead and move both of those items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you. And we, Supervisor Christie, the whole thumb up thing and thumb down works really well, so we will do it. Thank you. Yeah, hang on. We have... Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now we have, sitting as the Board of Supervisors, approval of the consent agenda. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion.
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
One of the items on the consent calendar deals with appointments to the Regional Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee. It brought to mind a recent interview that our state's Attorney General, Chris Mays, did with our local NPR station. And she said that she wanted to use state funds from the opioid settlement to partner with cities and counties to create what she referred to as economies of scale to address abuse and addiction. And I just wanted to ask Ms. Lesher or Dr. Garcia to comment on how we are trying to make contact with the Attorney General so that we can find out exactly what she and her staff may intend to be doing with Pima County in terms of creating those partnerships.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva and Supervisor Scott. The Health Department has been working both with the dollars that have been directed direct to the county, as you know, through the opioid funds, and with the Attorney General. And I'll ask Dr. Garcia to provide a little more information on the workings of the department.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Scott. Thanks to the introduction that our Chief Civil Deputy, Mr. Brown, we have been able to contact Nick Davis in the Attorney General's office and have started the dialogue. I believe the Attorney General is trying to do the right thing and trying to coordinate their efforts in terms of the dollars that they are stewarding on behalf of the people of the state of Arizona. There has not been a mechanism created for that kind of dialogue. And so it's very much on an individual basis, but I'm happy to say that we've established that linkage, that we have started to benefit from that. Most recently, as I have noted, we brought to the board a project that was funded by those AZAG opioid dollars for the Behavioral Health Department. Those dollars are flowing. In fact, they're flowing much more rapidly than we had expected. And I believe that we are in a good position to sort of continue to capitalize on that relationship.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chair Grijalva? Yes. For the record, Supervisor Hines has joined today's meeting.
Thank you. So we have a motion to second for item 8, which is approval of the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes 5-0. Item number 9 is the Board of Supervisors representative updates on boards, committees, and commissions in other municipalities. Have any updates, colleagues? I do have one. There's a slide. Do you have it? Yeah. It's just quick. You go to the second one. Had 2 meetings. One was a Visit Tucson held their 2024 annual meeting on June 26th, the convention center with representatives all across Pima County. What stood out to me was Tucson's brand is our community, and tourism contributes to our economy and reduces our taxes. Importance to balance tourism and growth in Pima County, and that was said repeatedly by several people there. And the Board of Health met on June 26th virtually. There was a discussion regarding updating bylaws, and we had a presentation from Dr. Cullen on heat and the opioid settlement and healthy Pima metrics. And that's it. All right, thank you. All right, item number 10 is the Santa Cruz River Urban National Wildlife Refuge. This would be discussion, direction, action. A proposal was is to send a joint letter with Santa Cruz County to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, this exact letter that's attached, in support of creating a Santa Cruz River Urban Wildlife Refuge that would span 2 counties. The Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors will be considering approval of this letter on maybe right now, July 2nd. So this was an item that was brought forward to me by Supervisor Becker, and I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? I think this is a good thing.
Madam Chair?
Working together. Yes, Supervisor Christie.
Yes, upon looking at the background on it, for some reason it didn't fail to register, but this is being proposed that the Secretary of the Interior uses administrative authority, quote unquote. That in and of itself is kind of troubling, but in light of the recent Chevron deference determination by the Board of Supervisors, I would like to make a motion that this item be continued until our county attorney can give us a reading on if this is going to be in violation and conflict with the Supreme Court ruling just handed down on the Chevron deference issue. And I think we need to find out if this is going to be able to be allowed under the new ruling or not before we make a motion or before we make a determination on this item.
Okay, so that was a motion. That was a substitute motion. Do you have a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Supervisor Hines.
So I was actually going to make a similar comment, though. I'm just concerned about any of our communications with federal agencies, which now that the courts have made this incredibly bizarre power grab for federal agencies. I think for state agencies, the Chevron deference doesn't apply. But if we're interacting with a federal agency, do we need to copy like the DC Circuit Court clerk? Or I don't know, because like it seems like it's just going to get thrown into the courts, and I don't know. It's really frustrating. So that was my thought, but I'm happy to vote for this.
Yeah, I think this is a support letter request. We're happy to CC whomever is recommended, and we can ask our county attorney if there's any other recommendations on anyone that should receive this communication. Happy to do that. Any other comments or questions?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
I think this is a simple matter of 2 county boards of supervisors advocating for something that's going to be beneficial to the people and the environment of both counties, and whatever needs to be sorted out at the federal level can be sorted out at the federal level. But I'm happy to join with our colleagues in Santa Cruz County.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have and a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, item passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Item number 11 is outside agency committee funding recommendations for fiscal year 2024-25. Before we move on, want to thank the outside agency committee for all of their work. We each have an appointee on that committee, and it's really difficult. They requested, the total requested was 4.8, and what we have to distribute is 3.5. So obviously the need and requests really outweigh what we have as resources, but I will go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. God, let me flip to, I do want to move up if we can. We have our Director of Elections here. And so we have the Election Board Workers Appointment, item number 14. This is pursuant to ARS 16-531A, appointment of election board workers recruited on file in Elections Department for July 30th, 2024 primary election. We have 126 vote centers and 1,428 poll workers. Is that right?
That's
part
correct.
of this item? Okay, great.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that, of course, this is a requirement, statutory requirement, and just to remind everybody that this list is not static. As everyone knows, when you work with a lot of volunteers, that it changes constantly. But one of the things that we're trying to do is to, and I think you saw on the report, add standbys so that we can replace those individuals if needed. The other thing is, if anybody's looking at the party representation, as we lose individuals, especially inspectors, if we lose a Democratic inspector, I know this is going to sound a little weird, but we try to replace them with a Republican inspector so that we can try to balance out the inspectors, get that equity the way that we need it. But I will say that this is the cleanest list that I've seen since I've been here, and I think the equity that is here is very good. And so we will continue to work towards parity in our board members. And so I just recommend that you accept this list.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you. We also, if we could skip to 38, we have Director Michelle Simon of the Office of Digital Inclusion, and this is a request of Comcast Southern Arizona to provide Pima County Digital Navigator Program for $88,648 to purchase laptops. Is that correct? No, that's not your item? Okay, it's not for that, but it doesn't matter. I won't even add that part in. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passed. Oh, Supervisor Christie.
Yes, have a couple of questions on this item. We're still on 38, correct?
Correct. We were just going to close it, but I'm sorry. There was a little delay. I apologize.
This is an $88,000 grant by Comcast to the county, and I'm just trying to figure out what the end game is on this, because it sounds like this program is to train people to go out and sell broadband services, and I'm kind of trying to find out what the benefit and the good of this program is. And I'm also wondering why digital inclusion reports to Dr. Garcia instead of IT, who reports to Director Holmes.
Thank you. Sure.
There's one item in the background. Let's see, on the bullet points. It says Pima County to help as far as under Comcast and Pima County partnership recognition, Pima County to help generate awareness of Comcast Internet Essentials by distributing materials to individuals served through Digital Navigator Program. I'm just concerned or troubled by the lack of any kind of an explanation about what we're trying to achieve here and what the end goal is on this.
Thank you. Chair Grijalva and Supervisor Christie, this is one small component of, as we've been discussing over the last 2 years, the $25+ million grant that was received to make sure that all segments of the county have access to internet services. The grant and the work was done through the library department, which reports through to Dr. Garcia. Michelle Simon was the deputy director of the library department. When we split the Office of Inclusion over, it moved at that time, and we have not looked at what may be coming soon, some other not reclassifications or reorganization that may be coming or not, but it's because it came out of the library, which is why it continues to report to Dr. Garcia. The specifics of the grant can be discussed by Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, and Administrator Lester. I'm excited about this opportunity with Comcast. It is a grant award in the amount of $88,648, $25,000 of which is cash. The remaining dollar amount is a donation of 100 laptops. And it is in support of our Learn to Earn a Computer program that will be introduced in the fall. This will give people in our community the opportunity to take specific classes and do a workforce development or health component in order to earn a laptop. And so that is what the support of Comcast is. The $25,000 is actually support to buy the mobile equipment that is necessary for us to go out into the community and do the classes. So the $25,000 will be used to purchase a projector, a staff laptop, computer screens, portable storage devices that will allow us to charge up the laptops and actually be able to take them out into our county vehicles to provide support. The individuals that will be doing these classes are individuals that currently work in my office. They are trained as digital navigators, and so what does that mean? They help people to connect to the internet, and that is whether it is in the Comcast service area, Cox service area, Lumen service area, but to connect them to those low-cost programs. So Comcast low-cost program is called Internet Essentials. There is some qualification that must happen, but it is a $10 a month program that families can qualify so that they can have internet at home. And that is what our digital navigators do. So that is why there's information about providing that resource to community members, because this is a Comcast grant. And the focus of the effort is in, if you look in the paperwork, the very first three zip codes that were listed, 85735, 85757, and 85746, I believe. And those are in the Comcast area. They're inclusive of 3 Points, Drexel Heights, and in the Tohono and Pasquayaki nations.
You. Any additional questions?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
Madam Chair. So this is being administrated through the libraries?
Supervisor, Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, no, sir. That is through the Office of Digital Inclusion.
And Madam Chair, how many are on that staff?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, there are 3 individuals in that staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
I just want to thank Ms. Lesher and Ms. Simon for putting in place in the Office of Digital Inclusion a navigator model, because we have seen the effectiveness of the navigator model in community and workforce development, in justice services with the justice navigators who work at the transition center. And it sounds like it's a similar model within your office that builds on the successes of those previously adopted models.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Supervisor Lee.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. And Ms. Simon, I just want to thank you for including 3 Points. Sometimes we forget about the rural areas, and I'm real pleased that that's part of the service area. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do also have a group of people here from the call to the audience. on addendum number 3, and I'm wondering if we could move to that. Okay, so addendum number 3 is a removal of attorney-client privilege from the expansion of background checks for firearm purchases memorandum. This is essentially just allowing our county attorney to remove the privilege because it was provided to the board in exec form and as a privileged document, and we want to release it. So I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Supervisor Scott, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so we'll go back to the item number 12, and this is Constable Office Update. This is a discussion regarding an update from the Constable's office. Please feel free to come forward. For 5 minutes, yeah.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Grijalva and honorable members of the board. I think it's beyond a little time for our office to give you a little update on how things have been progressing. We all know there were issues 2022 and prior. There have been a lot of improvements made. As we all know, there's 9 justice precincts in Pima County. We currently have 8 working constables with the 1 vacancy in Justice Precinct 4. Every constable is working, doing the work of their precincts, and also we are also covering JP4. In addition to that, we are also helping each other out. Sometimes precincts get more papers to serve than others, and everybody reaches out. It's a very great team. We have a lot of solid people in the constable's office right now, not just the electeds, but also our office staff. I did put a few numbers together. The big one they always talk about, and I've been approached by the media a few times, is evictions. 12,993 evictions were filed in Pima County in 2023. As the office, the constables, we served 3,150, which means we executed them, removed these people from the property. What that number doesn't say is the people that we also helped. We're not just in the business of removing them. We try to give them information so they know what services are available to them, what county assistance, what departments they can contact, even sometimes what private organizations. Yes, it's our job. It's not a happy part of our job at all, but it's one we have to do. We are hired by the people to do that. But it's, and that's just that number, 3,150, that's just us. I don't have the numbers, how many that Sheriff's Office Civil does. They do some also, especially they come from Superior Court. Total amount of documents served. Now this is missing some information, as in Tucson you have the consolidated courthouse. We have 7 constable offices there. Myself in Justice Precinct 3 in Ajo, we are a separate court, as well as Justice Precinct 7 in Green Valley. Now Constable Shenik in Green Valley, he gets some paperwork from the Tucson office, which he serves. So I do not have the numbers from him for what he receives from his court, but the total court documents that JP3 and consolidated and partially of JP7 were 8,183 documents for 2023. Successfully served out of that number, 5,894. I was hoping to have a breakdown of protective orders, injunctions against harassments, and the standard like criminal subpoenas or civil lawsuits we also serve. Now those just don't come from Pima County. They can come from other courts in the state or in the United States. I've myself received civil lawsuits from courts out of Alaska to serve in Ajo. So we kind of cover quite a bit. Do you guys have any questions on that aspect right now, before I can move on to anything else? Right? Or we can just wait till the end and we can hold off questions.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Some of the improvements made for safety-wise. Safety is the utmost importance for any kind of law enforcement agency, peace officers, anybody. All constables are provided with a ballistic vest, body cameras, tasers. Taser training, we currently have 7 of the 9 constables that have received the training and carry a taser in the course of their duties. 6 of us have received the AZ post required firearms safety training and the requalification every year. So 6 of us carry firearms in our course of duties. Anybody that has issued a county-owned firearm is required to go through that training, which we receive through the sheriff's office. They can also receive that training through the Arizona Constable Association, either in January when it's available. Like this year, they have one at the end of January, beginning of February, and you can also get that qualification. Now, some of us that do carry weapons and have this training, we carry some personal owned firearms that we have qualified and trained with. We carry tasers, as we are qualified to carry those also. Now, body cameras, everybody is issued a body camera. Now, the caveat with all this equipment is we cannot force anybody to use it, as they are each elected by their precinct. That is up to them. If they want to take the liability of not wanting to use it, that falls on them. But these safety measures are provided for all the constables. Bill, am I missing anything on that one? Okay. All right. Next one is, we currently have the vacancy in JP4. The citizens of JP4 had not had an effective constable for many years. Once he had resigned, it left a vacancy. We have been taking care of those documents, although as electeds of our precinct, we're beholden to our precincts first and foremost. Then we will go out and take care of those documents. Everything is getting taken care of. Everything is getting served. Although for JP4, there is some delays because we have to take care of other priorities first. One thing is, say we get orders of protection for JP4, we try to put those on the front burner and get those done right away. But sometimes the evictions can take a week to 14 days to get done over there. And we've explained to all the property managers or homeowners that we're working with, and they understand it. So I am respectfully and kindly asking that at the next board meeting on the 16th, if you would consider appointing the sole candidate that's running for JP4. That's Miss Tracy Ethers Nielsen. She's a Democrat. She has a wealth of law enforcement knowledge. 28 years in law enforcement. She has a bachelor's degree in police science and admin. Also has a master's degree in educational leadership. Okay.
Any other?
On that, I have nothing else right now. I'm sorry if I went over time.
Yeah, okay. Do we have any questions? So I just want to note that I just saw a sign for a write-in candidate for 4. So just FYI.
Okay, I hadn't seen any for 4 yet. I knew there were, I know we sent an email, but I know we have 2 for 9. I wasn't sure about 4.
Yeah, there was, I just, on my way here, noticed it. Supervisor Scott.
Chair Grijalva, back when we eliminated a justice precinct, that was based on a recommendation from the then county administrator. So I wanted to ask Ms. Lesher if we could get a recommendation from administration as to the request that's being made by the lead constable. Thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Hines.
So I know that there may have been some impact to our community relatively recently, with regard to timeliness of serving orders of protection, or what protocols? It sounds like you're making some progress, which is great. But what protocols do you have in place internally? I know it's kind of, you can't really tell other electeds what to do, which is why I frankly don't want a constabulary, to be completely frank with you. But what is in place or is newly in place to make sure that it's not weeks and weeks and weeks for an order of protection not being served, which could impact, obviously, someone's life.
Right. Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Hines. Orders of protection are basically the forerunners of the paperwork we're going to serve first. We will make the attempts on those. As they are just civil papers, a lot of times if someone just doesn't answer their door, we cannot serve that. We will make every attempt possible and make sure that we do the best of our ability to do that. And every constable we have working right now does that. They're probably one of the more dangerous ones, especially if it's what's called an exclusive use order of protection, because then we have to remove somebody from there. So it can be kind of scary. We manage it very well, but I can tell you that every constable we have right now working for Pima County, injunctions against harassments and orders of protection are the first things we want to get served. Then evictions come next. criminal papers, subpoenas, they have kind of a little longer timeline. We can kind of get to those a little bit later. That's okay, because there's usually 6 weeks before the court date. Civil lawsuits, there's a pretty good lead time in there, so we have a lot of time to get on those. So everybody puts the protective orders and injunctions against harassments first. They'll make their attempts usually that start of the day. Then from that, then they'll go to starting their evictions. So it's nothing written. It's an accepted practice, a best practice of everybody.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Lee, then Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. I just want to thank you, Eric, as the lead, and all the other constables for all your work. I know you come from Ajo, so every time you're here, you've got a long drive.
Yeah.
Takes you away from your duties over there, but thank you for your service. And I am supportive of, just so for the record, I am supportive of filling the vacancy because I do see the need, and I certainly don't want backlog. And it's been, like you said, several years that Precinct 4 has had little to no service from that particular former employee. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is directed to you, Madam Chair. You noticed there was a write-in candidate. Did you notice if she or whoever it was has registered with the Department of Elections? I believe that's the process for write-in candidates.
I don't know. I literally, as I was driving here, saw a sign, and it popped out to me because it said JP4, and it's a write-in candidate. Yeah, I would assume that they have to, but we'll check it out. Our county administrator indicated that the office would look into it and get back to us. But I just saw signs. I mean, I guess people can put up signs, so. Any other questions?
Just one.
Supervisor Hines.
So you may have heard before, I'm a fan of one constable, well, not, but like one constable, like we have one recorder, one sheriff, et cetera. We need statutory authority to do that. And so I know we've directed our lobbyists to try to affect that, because I think that takes care of a lot of issues, like because you have one elected countywide constable who can have then an entire professional staff covering the districts however they want. You have to wear your body camera. Period and done. I guess if you're that one person, wouldn't have to, but I mean, probably you wouldn't be doing a ton of that yourself. Like
myself, I wear everything, body camera, everything, anytime I'm out, yeah.
But I know I didn't prepare ahead of time for this, but I'm just curious on your just candid thoughts on that kind of change if we get the statutory authority to ensure a professional staff, to ensure that everyone has to follow the rules, like wearing the body cameras. If we have, again, a one constable system with an entire professional staff as opposed to 9, right?
Right. And Supervisor Hines, I completely understand your viewpoint on that. I've heard you speak about that, and I respect it completely. As we are a statutory position, we all know how that can be very difficult to change. Us as the constables of the county, we are doing our very best to have best practices put in place to make sure things are safely done and the county is represented very well. One thing that we have discussed amongst ourselves and with some other people is, if possible, we could even have currently deputy constables, which then could be distributed amongst the county. So let's say we have a constable that's out for sick leave for however many days. We can assign that individual to that precinct or assign them to assist other constables in the county, especially on the orders of protection or some evictions that are extremely dangerous. Right now, we call on TPD or Sheriff's Office. They do fantastic to the best of their abilities helping us out. But sometimes it might be a little delay in because they're taking away from their area. If we would love to have 1 to 2 deputy constables, which would fall under the presiding's authority to direct them to go take care of what they need to take care of and where it needs to be done. So that might be something for now we could look at, but I completely understand what you're saying. But, we all understand how it is for statute to be changed legislatively at the state level.
Yeah, but I think that the proposal that you're talking about would increase your budget.
That would, correct.
Yeah, and that's not something that I'm in favor of looking at. To increase the budget. I also, I think you have to understand the position that the 5 of us are in is most of the time that when we hear from your office, it is not in a positive light.
Correct.
And it's a lot of, accusations of rogue people. And there's a lot of leadership changes. There seems to be a lot of tension in general. And so I agree with Supervisor Hines that moving to a model where we would have one and then some authority over everyone else would make the most sense. Even if those other representatives are from the same JP areas, I think that I hope that we can have some movement in that direction, because it is a huge liability for the county. I mean, you interact with the community, and there is there are no checks and balances in your offices. I mean, what we heard is people come to work, they don't come to work for months, they don't answer the phone. What we've heard has not in general been positive. So I'm glad that you came to sort of give us an update on what you all are doing.
Chair Gerhol.
Supervisor Scott.
As my colleagues know, I represent us on the Legislative Policy Committee for the County Supervisors Association, and there's a supervisor from each one of the other 14 counties on that committee. And the supervisors from the other counties oftentimes express concern about the existing statutory model for constables throughout the state of Arizona. I have talked, as Supervisor Hines has, with our lobbyist about any kind of changes to that, and I know that that's something we may discuss with the new legislative program that's coming before the board. But I will say candidly, something else that we've heard from Mr. Rossi, and you may have heard this as well, Supervisor Hines, is that in terms of actually doing away with the constable position, which has been discussed, there are members of the legislature of both parties, maybe some of your former colleagues, who are very supportive of the existing model. So I think what we need to do is work with our constables here in Pima County, and I think there's been a great move on your part and under Constable Lake's leadership when he was the presiding constable to bring more professionalism and collaboration into the office. I think the resignation of the previous incumbent in Precinct 4 was a good thing, given that that person had been disciplined by this board and the previous Board of Supervisors. But I think we need to be working with our constables in terms of what we can do here in Pima County, and then talking with our colleagues in the other counties about what can reasonably happen at the state level. But I join with Supervisor Grijalva in thanking you for being proactive in coming to talk with us today. And I just want to reiterate that I think it's important for the board to get a recommendation from the county administrator in terms of the recommendation that you're making, because she can also look at the data that you're dealing with and make a recommendation to the board. We did not choose to fill that vacancy when the previous constable resigned. So that would be a reversal of what the board did back then. And I would want to hear not only what you had to say, but get some kind of recommendation from the county administrator. So thank you, Chair Grijalva.
Thank you. And Supervisor Lee.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Lee, then Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. One of the things that I would like, once we look at our legislative agenda and take a vote, is to do what Supervisor Hines said and perhaps find out if there's a way to add through the statute that they should have the same kind of training, that's a mandate with regards to the safety training and the taser training and the body cam and all of that. In addition, I know that Eric has 3 jobs because his job pays minimum wage. This constable job pays him minimum wage, and that's wrong. So I would like us to look at that because that is handled through the legislature, and I think that really needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Supervisor Christie.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd like to remind everybody, it's my understanding that the constables are listed and included in the state constitution. And I'm sure we don't want to open ourselves up to any kind of lawsuits pertaining to extending what we're doing to the constables in Pima County as opposed to what the state constitution says. So while we're looking at all of these various options or inclusions that are being presented, perhaps it would be a good idea that we ask our legal counsel to research what it states in the state constitution to make sure that we're not overstepping our bounds or doing something that supersedes what the Constitution allows for.
All right, and Supervisor Hines, and then I think we can move on.
Yeah, sorry. To that end, thank you, Supervisor Christie. I agree. I think, unfortunately, to completely eliminate the constabulary entirely, in my research, and again, I have 4 years of legislative experience, which just doesn't make me an attorney, just dangerous. But like my understanding is there would have to be a statewide approval to a constitutional amendment basically to do that. And I don't think that's very likely, but there are there are several counties, I think four or five counties that are smaller than Pima County, obviously, but they either don't have any constables or they have like one. So there's definitely that in terms of the number of constables and nesting them with the JP districts and all that. That is something that I believe is statutory. So my hope is that we can achieve a statutory change that allows for counties like Pima County to decouple the constables from the individual JP districts and then just do one, but again, not to eliminate the entire role.
And then I believe Mr. Brown has something to add.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, Supervisor Hines, it is a statutory issue, not a constitutional issue. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, now we're on item number 13, final plat with assurances. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Supervisor Christie seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. We've addressed 14, now we're on 15. This is classification compensation. The Sheriff's Department requests approval to create a new classification. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
A motion is second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number, do you want to take 16 and 17 together?
Sure.
Okay. Item number 16 and 17, Southern Arizona Children's Advocacy Center, and then Kodak Health and Recovery Wellness agreements. I'll go ahead and move both of those items.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 18 is the Center for Community Mediation and Facilitation to provide restorative justice program. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
this is a troubling issue. To provide for restorative justice program, if you look at the background under public benefit, it states Pima County residents stand to save significant tax dollars by having the restorative justice program divert eligible felony level offenses to the program, as the program is largely run through volunteer community members as opposed to cases being routed through the traditional criminal justice system. These are felonies and the most serious levels of crimes. And to delegate them to community members, volunteer community members, I think is a very dangerous step to take, and that it could lead to a great misunderstanding of how our justice system works, as well as lack of confidence in its ability to render justice. So I think this is a bad step. It's to me, another form of emphasizing or reimagining a new judicial system that really doesn't hold criminals accountable, particularly felonies. So I will be voting against this, and I think it's a dangerous issue of what I guess is called deflection, and I think it's irresponsible that without further study that we need to look at this because we're going to have volunteers deal with felony criminals, I think is dangerous. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Having run a juvenile diversion program for 26 years, that's been happening for a long time. And so the eligible offenses, many of them are, small amounts of a substance, not anything for sale. Most of them have very specific criteria.
Felonies,
yeah, but some felonies are if you shoplift over a certain amount, it's a felony. And so what ends up happening?
Juvenile versus felony.
No. But we have it in adult system too. But what ends up happening is that it clogs up our system with relatively minor offenses, even if they're listed as a felony. Many of these are reduced to a misdemeanor after going through diversion. And so a lot of those are what these cases are. And so it's a negligible amount of money to provide volunteer training. So I'll go ahead and, we have a motion and a second? Okay. All right, so I have a motion. Supervisor Scott.
I realize that Mr. Brown heads up the civil division, but I wondered if, as the representative of the county attorney's office, if he had anything that he wanted to say about the program and why it's in place.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Scott, yes, not the expert on the program, but know enough. These are nonviolent offenders, even though they are felonies. The victim has to participate, so the victim of the crime has to agree that this is the way that it's going to be resolved. So the language about clearing up the, log jam and saving tax dollars is accurate and correct, and they are not, just because it's a felony does not mean that it's a violent crime. These are always nonviolent.
Mm-hmm.
Chair Grijalva.
Yes.
Just to follow up, Mr. Brown, if the victim does not agree, then it is not a matter that can go through this program.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Right, because you have mediation, listening circles, facilitation, so you have to have participation from the victim.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva.
All right. Any additional comments or questions? All right. All in favor, we have a motion, a second on item 18. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Christie voting no. Item number 19, we have 4 more minutes. Item number 19 is the Ajo District Chamber of Commerce to provide Ajo Visitor Center, gateway to the Sonoran Desert. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 20 is the Metropolitan Education Commission Regional Access Center. We're extending the contract term to 6/30/25 and amending contract language. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Aye. I'm second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And now, coincidentally, we are very close to our 10:30, and it's the next item. So it's the Sun Corridor to provide economic development support services for Pima County in southern Arizona. This is a contract amount of $550,000, and we have some people here from Sun Corridor who want to chit-chat with us. Do you want to go ahead and come on up? Thank you for being here. All right, Mr. Snell, you want to introduce?
Good morning. I'm Joe Snell. I'm the president and CEO of Sun Corridor, and I have some very important guests with me today. Susan Gray, who is the current chair of the board, also happens to be the president and CEO of TEP, and then Judy Rich, the immediate past chair of the Sun Corridor, and just retired as the present CEO of Tucson Medical Center.
Thank you for your service.
Chair Grijalva, Board of Supervisors, thank you for having us. We appreciate our partnership with you. You know, driving over here, I was just thinking about it a little bit. We are celebrating this year our 20th anniversary as an organization. And you should feel pretty proud with that because 20 years ago, Pima County was a founding member of our organization. You're really the bedrock behind that. So we've went 20 years. I think it's been a great partnership working with together to create opportunities for the people that live here. And so we're very thankful for this partnership. We think it's a great investment. We think you're being really smart, I do anyway, by partnering with us, because at the end of the day, we do things that you can't and you do things we can't. And you're a good steward for the public dollar. For every dollar that is invested in Sun Corridor, you see a return of $3 matched by people like this with the same agenda in place. So I want to just say thank you for your support. Thank you for your partnership, and we look forward to the future. And I'd like to turn it over to Susan and Judy to say a couple things.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chairman Grijalva and the board. This is, again, I'll just reiterate what Joe said about our partnership. It's really important to have this partnership so that we can attract the new businesses to our community. And so your investment is really an investment in our community. And without your partnership, we wouldn't be effective in bringing these new businesses in or expanding the businesses that are here. And why do we want to do that? Well, it's really about helping our community prosper, right? We're bringing in new tax base, we're bringing in new jobs, and this is how we can continue to really help our folks here in the county to prosper. And so we're committed to it at Tucson Electric Power, and I appreciate your partnership with Sun Corridor.
Thank you, distinguished board and chairman, for allowing us to speak today. It's my honor to just say a few words about the importance of Sun Corridor. We have just recently, 3 weeks ago, had a meeting in June, very hot. Lots of people came, and I looked around the room and I said, wow, it's June and all these people are here on their own time simply because they believe in the work that we're doing in Sun Corridor. And they believe that their time is going to be well spent. We listen to new businesses who come in. I've learned a lot as each new business that comes into our community has time on the board agenda to explain to us what they do, what they build, how things work, and their opportunity to grow in the future. So it definitely feels like a very concrete, very alive organization. And every time we meet about 5 or 6 new people who have either just moved here or started new businesses. So I think it's very vibrant, and so it's going to continue to offer that. And then from the healthcare perspective, you're going to be hearing more about Thrive and about how we're going to find more doctors, Dr. Hines. We know we don't have enough doctors here, and Sun Corridor is going to get behind a program that I'm going to be involved in that says, what is it that we're missing? What is it that we need to do differently to make sure we have enough people to take care of the community that we live in? So thank you.
You. Do you have any questions? Okay, I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
Actually had a question that I hope can be responded to not just by Mr. Snell, but also by Ms. Lesher or somebody she may designate. There's a memo from Ms. Lesher that is attached to this item that describes the regional economic development ecosystem. And it's a T-chart that shows the different responsibilities for Sun Corridor staff and then the responsibilities for our staff in the Economic Development Department. I just wanted to get a sense from both our friends with Sun Corridor and from county staff how that document was developed, if you could describe the process for the board.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva and Supervisor Scott. I'll begin. I think as we've had conversations with this board and some of the public over the last several years, there's been some comment sometimes or confusion suggesting what do we do, what do they do, is there duplication of service? And so we felt it was appropriate to really put down on paper to show how the organizations complement each other and how we fill the gaps rather than competing in some ways. How this was developed, I'm going to ask Mr. DeBonis, who works with our economic development team, to talk about the specifics, but the bottom line has been designed from our perspective so that everyone can see how the organizations, as I say, complement each other and work on behalf of the folk of the community rather than competing in any way.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Scott, staff at Pima County, myself, our Economic Development Director, Heath Vescovi-Chiordi, met with David Welsh, the Vice Executive Director at Sun Corridor, and Susan Dumont, really identifying what the respective roles were and how they laid out. So we took time as we were going through and preparing the contract amendment to identify those items that are on that illustration that's part of Ms. Lesher's memo. We then shared that with Mr. Snell and Ms. Lesher for their final input and blessing, and then worked with our communications department to go ahead and put it into the format that's there. It's not intended to be exhaustive or all-inclusive. It really is to be a snapshot of the roles that each of us perform in a complementary fashion.
Could I ask Chair Grijalva, Mr. Snell had anything he wanted to add to what Ms. Lesher and Mr. DeBonis said?
No. No, and all joking, I think it was adequately characterized, the way this was developed. And I think, as Carmine said, it's not exhaustive, but I think it's very important that we lay this out side by side to make sure that we aren't duplicating services. So I feel very comfortable going into this, that we have distinct roles, distinct lanes to play in, and it adds value, I think, for the county. I think that's very important. So I feel comfortable with it.
I know that the city of Tucson has been a contributor and not. Do you know with their upcoming budget if Sun Corridor was included in this budget?
I don't know that. For clarification, and I sometimes think this gets confusing, the Sun Corridor has one contract of services with one government entity, and that is Pima County. Okay. It was designed that way. Now, we do have participation from several of the municipalities, all the municipalities in the metro area, but they strictly pay dues, board dues. The city of Tucson, it was referred to, somebody asked me one time, said what they pay was very low contract amount. They don't have a contract with us. They pay at a level of membership, which is our highest level. So
how much is that amount?
They pay $50,000. And frankly, it's not as high as, without getting into detail, some of the private sector firms, they pay even higher. So as we've talked, and I've talked to Administrator Lesher, that maybe it's time to talk about a different formula. But that's the way it was designed for over a decade. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification, because it comes up often, especially on this board. It's like, so if the county's doing what is the city doing, and other municipalities that are in our area. And I know that you provide us an outline and I think monthly, definitely quarterly update. So we appreciate that, and that we can always just write back if we have any questions. One thing I think is going to be really important going forward is if this board passes resolutions that we think might impact the work or the kinds of businesses that you're trying to draw, that we make sure to share those with you, because there was a time there that I had a staff member almost working full-time, trying to figure out ways to prevent the beginning of a business that, Sun Corridor was very proud to bring into the community. And, we had a resolution of 4-1 that was against it. So I just think it's important for us, so that way we're all on the same page, that you understand the position of the board. The I-11 corridor, that was another resolution that passed. And so I think it's just important for you to understand, so we're not working against each other, because that doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It helps us to have some guidelines,
right, and
to follow. I mean,
and understand that those don't always pass unanimously, but I think it's important that if they do pass, and most of those are passing with a super majority, that you're aware of the positions of the board members here. Supervisor Christie.
Yes, appreciate all of you being here, and you're not acting like you just took a $100,000 haircut, which is, I think, admirable. And
I'm not happy about it, but
encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and recruiting the businesses you're recruiting. And I'm very sorry that you have to take input like you just heard from the board's majority. Thank you.
It is the majority of the board. Supervisor Scott.
Just going back to the document that was jointly prepared by Sun Corridor and county staff, as you noted, we get an update from Sun Corridor. I think it's quarterly. It goes to Ms. Lesher. She passes it on to the board. Given that this document has two sides, could that update also include a similar report from our Economic Development Department so that we're getting quarterly reports, not just from Sun Corridor, but also from Mr. Vescovi-Chiordi and his team? I think having those companion reports would provide holistic information to the board.
He's smiling and nodding, and a thumb up, so I think we're okay.
All right.
All right, any other questions? Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. All right, now we're on item 22, the DM50 to provide Davis-Monthan Air Force Base advocate economic development activities. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Supervisor Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Grijalva. I do want to say I had served on the DM50 and it does tremendous work, but I would like to see that whatever activities happen with the DM50, like they put on the big tailgate or they have the new commander they have a reception, that Pima College is acknowledged. Pima, I'm sorry. I served on the Pima College Board. That's on my mind. Apology. Pima County is acknowledged because we are donating this amount, and my guess is we're the only government entity doing so, and that's a large sum. So I'd like to see something happen for our dollars. Thank you.
The Chair Grijalva had to step away. The item was moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 4-0. So we're going to move on then to item number 23, City of Tucson, Amendment number 4 to provide for maintenance of the City of Tucson premises located at 201 North Stone, extend contract term to June 30, 2025, and amend contractual language. And you're back.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Okay. 23, City of Tucson. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 24 is Catholic Community Services of Southern Arizona to provide for the fiscal year 2024 Shelter and Services Program. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Christie.
I have several questions on this item. First of all, when was this decision made to change administrators or carriers of the program? And why did I have to read about it in the paper rather than a direct notification from administration?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor
Lesher.
Christie, the decision was made when Catholic Community Services made the decision to not do it any longer, and we began to see who another provider might be. And we provided a memorandum immediately to the board on May 17th. Last year, I need to see what the TikTok was that led up to that, but I learned that Catholic Community Services would no longer be providing a service on the 16th. It was a Thursday. I was in meetings on Friday, and that was the day we notified the board. It's my recollection of when that's all occurred.
There was no direct memorandum to the board, Madam Chair. It was in the form of a statement from the communications office. That really doesn't constitute notification, and I think it should have been at least a courtesy to the board to have formal notification first before it's released to the public.
And it was.
And when does Catholic Community Services lease expire with the Ajo facility?
Chair Grijalva, Dr. Garcia, would you help with the specifics about the Ajo facility?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, with regards to the lease for the Ajo facility, the term is actually coming up, and it will be a agenda item in the near future for the board to approve.
So it's coming up for renewal, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, and Catholic Community Services, Madam Chair, does a number of other activities and missions. One, of course, is dealing with the homeless. Is there going to be some sort of a blending of Catholic Community Services to offer homeless and migrant services?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, no.
They are not.
No.
And is the Drexel Road facility, is that closed now since their Catholic Community Services is gone?
Chair Grijalva and Supervisor Christie, as we've been communicating with the board, no. We have shifted, we have had an operator, and AMI has been our subcontractor that was working at the Drexel facility. They are now assuming full responsibility for the operations at that location.
So that's, the Drexel Road facility is still in operation, and it's no longer under Catholic Community Services jurisdiction, but now under AMI.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, that's correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Do you have a motion and a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Christie voting no. Item number, do we want to take 25 and 27 together? Yeah? Okay. Item number 25 and 27, I'll go ahead and move both of those items.
Second.
A motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item, the next group is from the Recorder's Office. Can we take...
It's just the one.
Yeah, can we take 28 through 34? Is there an issue with that? Okay, so 28 is a recorder office, and then 29 through 34 are a series of agreements with the Sheriff's Department. I'll go ahead and move those items.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Items passed unanimously. And then item number 35 is the acceptance of community workforce development. This, if approved, this is resolution number 2024-32. The Board of Supervisors authorizing the approval of a continuum of care scope of work for fiscal year 23 grant amendment. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 36 is the acceptance of a grant to provide Arizona Prescription Drug Overdose Prevention Program. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
A motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 37 is the acceptance of Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation, Arizona Water Infrastructure Finance Authority to provide Pima County Arthur Pack Park Water Conservation Project, converting to reclaimed effluent water for that park. Excellent. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. I do have a question. How many of our parks are not on effluent or reclaimed water?
Madam Chair, in anticipation of that question.
I did, but I did give you a heads up.
That's correct, you did. We appreciate that. So of the 198 parks, it looks like half of them are on either potable water system or wells that utilize groundwater. We're going to do a more comprehensive report to the board to fill you in on where we are and, more importantly, what we're doing to make conversions.
I know that it's costly, but it in the long run will really benefit our community if we can, use that whole, it's just one drop of water. Let's use it a lot of times, especially for grounds. So, I look forward to that report. And then if we can start to create a plan on how we're going to transition our parks. You okay? Okay, all right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say,
Chair
oh, I'm
Gerhol.
sorry. Supervisor Scott, then Supervisor Lee? Okay.
Just in conjunction with that, Mr. DeBonis, as you probably know, our office has been having discussions with the Regional Flood Control District about the need to do more to retain and detain stormwater and use it not only for irrigation, but in some cases to recharge the aquifer. And Director Shep said that he was going to be talking with you about a more comprehensive plan and for the county. And I just was reminded of that when I heard the chair's question.
Thank you. Supervisor
I
Lee.
think he was going to say something.
Oh, who? Mr. DeBonis? Oh, go ahead, please.
Madam Chair, thank you, and Supervisor Scott. So we did several months ago prepare a report that came to the board via Ms. Lesher, and so we're going to come back to this topic. So you've heard of the Climate Action Executive Team, and that team has been super in pulling together the various department directors and working on these issues that span really the range of all of the county functions. And so water is one of those topics. They've been very instrumental as we've been talking about heat and mitigating the effects of heat on our community. Water will be a topic that is next up in queue for us to take a comprehensive look at, not just from a flood control perspective, but across all of the departments that are represented on the Climate Action Executive Team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Lee.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. When my team went to the wastewater facility on I-9 and I-10 and just had an incredible tour with Director Jackson. And one of the things that, is his last name Jackson? Jenkins. Jackson Jenkins, thank you. Anyway, we were so impressed, but one of the things that he told us about the reclaimed water that comes out of the wastewater facility is Pima County gets very, very little. And in the description that when you come back, Mr. DeBonis, I would love to see an explanation of the amount we get, because I was blown away that we get so little that we get to use. So, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Was that? Am I missing anyone? No? Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And we've addressed 38. Oh, now we're on 39. Acceptance of public defense funds. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. This is for federal foster care matching funds. Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And now we're on to hearings. Do we want to take all hearings together? Do we want to see? So let me go ahead and do the liquor licenses. Item number 40. Is a liquor license for Mosaic Cafe Dos. 41 is a liquor license for a liquor store on Ajo Way. And 42 is a liquor license for a Marana liquor store. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of these licenses? Okay, so I'll go ahead and move to close the public hearing and move those three items, 40 through 42.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Items pass unanimously. Item number 43 is, do we have an issue with taking those three together? No? Okay, I'm looking. All right, item number 43 is an agent change, acquisition of control, restructuring. Item number 44 is a hearing for a bingo license for the GVR Foundation in Green Valley. And number 45 is a fireworks permit for the Fremont Slag Dump in Ajo. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of any of those items? If not, I'll go ahead and move item 43 through 45.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Items passed unanimously. Item number 46 is unfinished business from our last meeting. It's a hearing on the rezoning for the North Bonanza Avenue rezoning. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Right. Yeah, I have several cards. Okay, so we have Sandy Wolford, followed by Elizabeth Atade and Kevin Wolford. So each of you will have 3 minutes. Sandy, did you want to go ahead and come on up?
Can't hear me? Okay, there, okay. I'm Sandy Wolford. I live at 4510 North Bonanza Avenue. First of all, my husband and I wrote a comment letter, and we had formatted it on Word, and when I transferred it over, it lost all the formatting, and I really apologize. It's very difficult to read it. But what I wanted to address was Liz, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so I'll call her A, Liz A. She has been quite vocal about the water and opposing the rezoning, and she is the only one, I believe, that is opposing it, and I believe that there's been a lot of confusion, that it has looked like it's possibly to do with the main wash. I don't know if they can put that on the screen. Is it on? Will this take away from my minutes? Okay. So it's really important to know that has nothing to do with the main wash. Her property is right here, and it has to do with this little, it's basically like a runoff. It's nothing to do with the main wash, and only this tiny little part right here, even because this is our property, and only this tiny part right here even goes across our property. So I have pictures here, and the picture that she keeps showing of this terrible flooding that's her property right there. And you can see it's not a deep wash. It's basically hardly even a swale. And the water runs across the road. This is the opposite side where our property is, and it's on the north of our house. And you can see that's super flat, and of course it runs across there. And just for full disclosure, this is where it leaves our property to the north and goes way up to the northeast and goes on other property. So I just want to state that the whole water issue that's been stopping this, she claims that building a house, and to make matters clear too, we're just trying to rezone and get lots. We're not builders. We're not going to build houses. We just simply want to sell the lots, and then that would be up to someone else to build a lot. That's why there are no footprints. So a house here to the south, and especially a house here to the southeast, I really fail to see how that could possibly affect this tiny little runoff area, even if, permeability were an issue or something. And I just don't see how any house here, when the existing house already is here, and there are existing houses there that are causing any of that water runoff. So that's basically what I wanted to state. And Supervisor Hines, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart that in the last meeting, you gave us a vote of confidence, and that was really encouraging. This has really been a nightmare. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just to make note, we did add a few seconds to your time. So, because we were having a little issue there. Okay, Elizabeth Atade?
Yes, hi. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Okay, thanks. This is Liz Tidy, and I do appreciate Ms. Walford's comments. And no, it is not the main wash. It is a small runoff wash, which I will have to get rid of the sand that comes off that property across the street. And I have a quote for the removal of the sand that ended up there from a horrible monsoon and from all the other monsoons that has come through. I did supply pictures of just a normal rain, what washes through coming from that side of the road. It will be around $2,200 to remove the sand that is deposited there because there was about 8 to 10 inches of sand that was not there prior to 21-22. So again, I just would have consideration for any build that goes on the north end of that property. The south end does not affect, she is correct, does not affect the runoff because it does go down and goes to the other folks that live south of me. But that is not where I am. Express my concern. My concern is that when I did call the county and asked to provide their sand back to them, I was told no, so I will have to take the sand that is being removed next week to the county dump, which makes absolutely no sense when you have a sand pile a mile up the road. So again, that's my comment. We'll stick to it. I have no decision in this matter, but I just wanted to make known how any development on the north side of their property would affect, if it speeds up runoff, I will have to do this more often and more often at a cost to myself, not a cost to the Walfords. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker on this item is Kevin Walford.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wolford. I'm a resident 4510 North Bonanza Avenue, and I am a proud resident of Pima County. Have lived here for 6 months, if there's any doubts about that. Just to be clear, there are no plans for building a home or anything on the north side. In fact, we don't even have ourselves plans, standing me, to build a house anywhere on this property. Really, to reiterate what she said, we just want to divide it up, sell some lots, and pay our debts. So as I understand the process, it looks kind of like we're close to moving this along. I got a list of what they call conditions that I received through email, 11 conditions. A lot of them are pretty standard. But I direct our attention to condition number 9. It's really unacceptable. Here, I'll read it for you. It says, in order to minimize floodplain impacts, and I think this may be a response to my neighbor Liz's concerns, there shall be no encroachment into or development within the Orduro Wash floodplain. Development of Lot 3, and this is the killer here, development of Lot 3 on the sketch plan will require that the owner obtain legal access from the south or east of the subject property. Now, this property is surrounded by homes. There is no possibility of legal access from anywhere except where it's depicted here towards Bonanza Road. And I've spoken to my neighbors on the south, Richard Long's, who will not allow access. Richard Long, by the way, has a 2-story house that far from my property line. I better get below in here. Okay, moving along. Off the topic of 2-story houses, just one more thing. 4 of the properties around me have 2-story houses. And I'll talk about that too. That's an item I would like to have struck. But going back to the floodplain, I have an engineer. I've checked all the boxes. I hired a. Can I go a little long since last week I was cut short? I hired an engineer, Bill Baker, great guy. He knows a lot about the area. Knows a lot about the lay of the land. We have a surveyor do this. They studied the topography, they established boundaries of the 100-year floodplain, they established boundaries for the erosion setback, calculated how far upstream from Bonanza Avenue a driveway could cross the wash. He designed a wash crossing. I'm sorry.
We're going to add a little more time. Supervisor Christie can't hear you, so if you could.
Oh, sorry about that.
Up and
Okay.
you don't have to duck, but.
Okay. This goes all to say that we've done our homework here. My engineer drafted a site plan showing a wash that would have minimal impact on flood concerns, and at my expense. And I guess I feel that if this panel is going to deny access to 4 acres of land and render it basically worthless to anyone who might buy it, then I feel they owe it to me, my wife, my neighbors, and to explain what exactly they mean by flood impact. Now, my engineer says, and he has a way with words, but I'll just summarize it. There's absolutely ridiculous to think that a wash crossing is going to have any impact on flood concerns. And I thought about that too. In fact, the other day I walked down the wash, and I'm not the only one who crosses that wash.
Thank you.
Laysan Lane crosses that wash. That's a street.
I'm sorry, your time's expired. We
Okay.
added time
All right.
as well.
4 other driveways cross that wash.
Thank you. Oh, Supervisor Christie, did we lose audio? Can you hear me? Okay, he can't hear. So we're going to go. Oh, yeah. We're going to go ahead and take a break because Supervisor Christie can't hear. Okay, and then we'll ask Supervisor Christie how much of that last speaker he could hear. And if he couldn't, then we'll ask you to come back up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a break.
Welcome to WebEx. Press 1. You're muted. You can press *6 anytime to unmute yourself. You're being asked to unmute. You're unmuted.
Test 1, 2, 3. Audio.
Okay, so attorney just signed off on it, so it's in route, right?
Audio test 4, 5, 6.
Okay. So we should.
I hear you now.
Next board meeting.
Yep, looks like we're back up and running.
Good. Okay. Hey, any movement on the Wi-Fi and the wall over at Commission? Oh, it's all right. Okay. Okay. Just let me know. Let me know, not rush. I'm just, it's on my mind. A movie company? Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, man. Thank you. All right, I gotta get back. All right. I'm gonna start back. All right. Talk to you later. So he's already, it should route to for signature here within the week.
I think it'll go on your, it'll go, the BOSA will come to you because it's facilities. But yeah, I remember. Yeah, I'm glad we weren't completely making up
I
shit.
got confused too. I was like,
I wanted to say that it's like a July 30th term date on that place.
Are we ready? All right, yeah, okay. Supervisor Christie, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I did, and I heard up through the recommendations from staff up through number 9, and a little bit beyond that the speaker was speaking on.
Oh, our last speaker, you couldn't hear?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and come back up? I'll have him repeat, so you'll have 3 minutes and just pretend you're not repeating anything because Supervisor Christie didn't hear it, so.
That'll give me a chance to cover the points I didn't have enough time to make. I guess what it comes down to is I'm acceptable with these conditions except for condition number 11 and condition number 9. Condition number 11 pertains to a restriction of 2-story homes up to, I guess the county allows 2-story homes up to 34 feet. And I have some arguments against that. One of them would be, let's get them right here. There we go. Number one objection to that special condition. 4 out of the 7 homes adjacent to my property are 2-story homes. Number 2, 2-story homes produce less flash flood runoff due to smaller impermeable area. And number 3, I have a 25-foot cactus growing on the middle of one of these lots. The person that objected to 2-story homes, I walked to his back wall, and I noticed he can't see that 25-foot cactus. So it brings me to wonder why such an objection to 2-story homes. Yeah, and the other thing is that if you do allow this restriction, can I at least have a compromised? It's not so much that it's a 2-story home, but it's actually the height that people's worried about, and that if we could allow a house up to say 22 or 24 feet. We could still put in a 2-story home, just not have the type of roof that brings that up. The next item that I would have struck was the one I spoke about, which was to minimize floodplain impact, that I would be banned from crossing my wash. And I made the argument that my engineer made, is that we've studied that and we can cross the wash with virtually no or at least negligible, or if any, impact on flooding. And we find that floodwaters move through the property. They don't just appear on the property because there's a wash crossing. So I hope that I hope that you would pass this item, but strike items, special conditions 9 and special conditions 11. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I guess I was under, oh, no, you can go ahead and have a seat. I guess I was under the assumption when this item came that there was some meeting of the minds or agreement with the property owner and the recommendations. So that's kind of my issue. Any other?
Sure.
Supervisor Scott.
I wanted to ask Mr. DeBonis or anybody he wanted to designate to speak to the additional conditions that were added, 9, 10, and 11. I know that they're responsive to concerns that were raised by board members, but I'd like to get an overview of all three, but I'd also like to understand why 10 and 11 are both needed, because it seems to me that number 10 says all new residences will be reviewed and approved by the Design Review Committee to ensure that the new homes integrate into the existing community. So if that's going to happen, then I can understand Mr. Wolford's concern with item number 11, because if the Design Review Committee is going to ensure that integration, why is item 11 even needed? So if we could get an overview of all three and the process by which they were added, and then also speak to that, what I see as a contradiction between 10 and 11.
Yep, Madam Chair and Supervisor Scott, let our Deputy Director and Planning Official, Chris Poirier, comment on those.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott, to the three new conditions, be happy to go over them. Condition 9 regarding floodplain. So throughout the process, not just the neighbor we heard, Ms. Ayate, who lives to the west, but we heard from, in the record, at least 4 other neighbors indicated concerns about drainage. Pima County Regional Flood District has substantial policy within our comprehensive plan that really tries to promote avoidance of washes. So throughout the process, that condition then was created to really offset potential negative consequences, especially of the property owners to the south. So the applicant indicated there was only one neighbor of concern, but we actually have, I believe, at least 5 protest letters. Most of them to the south of the property, those are probably most concerned with the potential drainage impact. So we worked with Regional Flood Control District to come up with a condition that we think is appropriate.
And can I just interrupt to ask, those letters of concern came in after the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission, correct?
No, most were on the record at time of Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, all right.
The typical sequence of a rezoning is we formulate our staff report, then neighbor letters come in, then the commission hearing occurs, and then we proceed to the board. That's why the condition was sort of crafted post original staff report to the Board of Supervisors today.
It was crafted post original staff report and post the unanimous decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
That is correct.
Okay. So, and again, we're talking about condition number 9. Why wasn't this put in prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission vote? I mean, if the concerns from the adjacent property owners came in after the staff report, but before the Planning and Zoning Commission report, I understand you're being responsive to our board, but I'm just wondering why the condition wasn't put in prior to the vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott, ideally that issue would have been fully fleshed out before or during the commission meeting. But in this circumstance, we received then the additional neighbor concern with supplemental letters specifically regarding flooding after the commission meeting. So that contributed then to, I think, our recognition of maybe that needs to be better addressed.
Understood. Okay. And then that addressed the questions I had about number 9, but could you speak to why both 10 and 11 were recommended? Because it seems to me that if 10 is fully implemented, that 11 seems superfluous.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott, I think with this discussion, then the DRC would be better positioned to consider something like height. The idea of including 10 and 11, make sure that when these do track to the design review committee, that height is going to be a significant portion of the review. So it's a two-part, two conditions for essentially 2 parts. One, the primary objective of the DRC is to look at architectural design. And I believe there was Chair Grijalva at the last meeting expressed concerns about the lack of elevations, that the board is used to seeing maybe more sophisticated applications where there could be, maybe a series of models that are part of the record that then everyone knows what the house will look like. In this case, it's more of what we call a mom and pop rezoning, where the applicant maybe doesn't know exactly what the houses will look like, but due to the potential concern raised by the chair and the board at the last meeting, we thought condition 10 would help the potential negative impact offset. If we go to the design review committee, neighbors then could have a say, and then the home would be architecturally, hopefully compatible. 11, again, just reinforces and gives then further direction and limits to whatever that architect might be proposing to the DRC, that whatever they're doing will include a height limit, because we have seen a specific neighbor concerns raised post P&Z to today, specifically about height. I believe it was a neighbor, last name Connolly, has gotten the record. He came to the last public meeting before the board to speak, asking for a height condition, and then I believe added an additional letter as well over the past week.
I just find, and this will be my final point, Chair Grijalva, I just find the work of the Design Review Committee to be so comprehensive that I think they would take into account exactly what's written in that condition, that the new homes integrate into the existing communities. So frankly, I understand Mr. Wolford's concern with condition number 11. I don't agree with his concerns about condition number 9 based on the points that you raised and the input from the Regional Flood Control District, but I can certainly understand the concerns about 11. But thank you, Chair Grijalva.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Supervisor Hines.
Yeah, just reminding everyone, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved this without condition 9, 10, or 11, 8-0. Unanimously. So I don't know that we need any of these, but I'm fine with condition 10. I do not support condition number 9. The man is using his own engineer. I trust him. And I don't support condition 11. So I will be voting for approval with condition 10 only.
Any other comments?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
I would move that we close the public hearing and approve the item subject to standard and special conditions with the exception of condition number 11, which I would ask to be struck.
I'll second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so item fails 3-2.
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
Given that failure, I would move the approval of the item, but with standard and special conditions, with the exception of conditions 9 and 11.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Supervisor Scott and a second by Supervisor Hines. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Christie voting no. Okay.
And can I just say, I
Yes,
appreciate
Supervisor
Mr. and Mrs. Wolford, your patience with the process. And if you have any further questions or concerns, know that you can contact Mr. DeBonis and his staff. And certainly because you're constituents of District 1, you can contact our office as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You can go ahead and get clarification from Mr. DeBonis in the back. Okay. He's standing up right there. Thank you.
He's coming over to talk.
Item number 47 is a hearing rezoning. Oh, we have a time certain. I apologize. We're a little over. We have a time certain for executive session. I'd like to move that we recess to executive session.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Supervisor Christie, did you vote yes? For certain, I know 4.
I did, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, yes, 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we are back from executive session, and item number 1 was legal advice on the addendum, and item number 5 is opioid litigation with new potential defendants, and those that we discuss and have to vote on publicly are Albertsons, KVK Tech Inc., Myland, Ludivore, Express Script, and Optimum RX. Yeah. And, I'm sorry? And Divier. I can't read my own handwriting, thank you. Okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move to add those potential defendants.
Second.
Motion a second by Supervisor Hines. Well, we can't discuss. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. So now we will go back to the regular agenda. Item number 47 is a rezoning. Oh, correct? Yes. Rezoning of approximately 0.83 acres. And this is a property in District 1. Supervisor Scott, do you want to?
Chair Grijalva, just wanted to ask if we have anybody present to speak in this hearing. If not, then I will move to close the public hearing and recommend approval subject to standard and special conditions as recommended by staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 48 is the hearing rezoning time extension. This is an item that has been rezoned in 2009 and received 2 5-year time extensions, with a most recent which expired on May 5th, 2024. Staff is recommending approval of the 5-year time extension subject to original and modified standard and special conditions. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this item? I do have a question. Are there plans, or is it just continued extension request?
Madam Chair, members of the board, just at this point, it's just a time extension for the rezoning.
Okay.
Chair Grijalva, I will recommend approval of the 5-year time extension subject to original and modified standard and special conditions as recommended by staff.
And close the public hearing.
And close the public hearing,
All
sorry.
right, I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 49 is, we'll just take these in order of the agenda. This is a hearing for conditional use permit. This is, do we want to have a review of what this project is? A little complicated. Maybe for the public to have a review? Or
Madam Chair,
Please,
board
go
members, we can give you a quick review.
Thank you.
This project is a large-scale solar farm. It's located substantially within the Renewable Energy Incentive District, which was approved back in 2012 by the Board of Supervisors. There are small areas that are not within the Renewable Energy Incentive District, so that scope of the project needs to go through the conditional use project permit process. That's what's before you today. Some of it's mapping errors, some of it's an expansion outside the read for what NextEra is trying to accomplish. So the first item's the conditional use. There's also 2 closures because underneath on the property there are 2 rezonings. And so those will have to be reverted and closed to bring the zoning back to RH. And so those are the 3 items.
Currently what?
They're currently a combination of TR, CB1, CR5, a mix of different zones.
For a development?
For development,
Housing
for
development
houses,
or- yeah, okay.
apartments, things like that. Obviously, infrastructure is not in the immediate area, so that would be an extensive process to bring in the necessary infrastructure. This project's going to last 20 to 30 years. At that point, it may be extended or removed, and then the owners will need to decide what they'd want to do with the underlying property.
Okay, thank you. Any question? Supervisor Christie, this is in your district. Did you want to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none, Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we accept P23CU0012 Andrada Investments LLC et al. And approve it subject to the standard and special conditions and to close public hearing.
Second.
So I have a motion by Supervisor Christie and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 50 is a hearing rezoning closure. And this is again Supervisor Christie. Did you want me to do these or do you want to go ahead?
I'll be glad to go ahead.
Okay.
If there's anyone to speak to this item. Seeing none, Madam Chair, I'd like to move that C09-111108 Andrada Investors LLC Andrada Road Alignment Rezoning be accepted and passed and closed.
Second.
A motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? Yeah, he did. I believe he did close a public hearing, but yeah. Okay. All in
And close public hearing.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And now we're on 51. This is a hearing rezoning closure. Supervisor Christie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing no one wishes to speak to it, I move to close public hearing and to accept the closure of P16RZ00007 Andrada Wilmot 180 LLC.
Second.
And so we have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott, and then he did close the public hearing. Any comment, question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on item 52, a hearing of a comprehensive plan amendment resolution. Just as a reminder, there was a typo on the printed agenda. So this is resolution number 2024-33 P23CA00005, Habitat for Humanity. This is an item in District 3. I'll go ahead and move approval. Oh, close the public hearing. Unless there's anyone here to speak in opposition or speak on the issue. Okay. Go ahead and move to close the public hearing and approve the resolution as stated earlier. Thank you. I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Hines. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now we are on item number 2, revisions to Board of Supervisors policies and personnel policy. And this is discussion, direction, action to look at Board of Supervisors policies. And this is an item that was brought forward by Supervisor Lee. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. In June of 2023, this was one of the items that came before the board on June the 6th, and then it came back on July the 7th. It was one of 2 policies relating to elections and county employees. This one was not approved at that time. The motion is to make proposed revisions to the following: Board Policy Number D23.3, Board Policy D23.9, and Personnel Policy D119, Rules of Conduct. The proposed change, is that county employees can make a political contribution and/or solicit or collect political contributions for any candidates for any elected county office, so long as this occurs outside of county facilities and work hours and does not utilize county resources. I'd like to move this item.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Lee and a second by Supervisor Hines. Supervisor Christie.
Yes, I'd like to offer a substitute motion And the substitute motion would be to continue this item to the first meeting in January after a new board has been seated. I think it's highly inappropriate that this is under discussion of campaign contributions when particularly everyone except the maker of this item or presenter of this item is running for re-election, and that ballots go out tomorrow. And I think that this is a bad optics to have this discussion of campaign contributions by county employees during the height of this election season, which really goes into full effect tomorrow. So I'd like to offer this until the first meeting in January when the new board has been set as a substitute motion.
I accept that substitute motion.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Lee seconded. I wasn't going to second because I was just going to vote no. So any discussion?
Chair Grijalva?
Yes. Supervisor Scott, and then Supervisor Hines, and then Supervisor Christie, did you want to speak to as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right. In that order.
I'll defer to Supervisor Christie since he made the motion.
Okay, Supervisor Christie.
Thank you. I just want to ask a question. Would this be a retroactive action to and for employees who have already made donations to campaigns so far this year?
Well, right now, we're considering your substitute motion, which means we wouldn't discuss this. Right now, county employees are prohibited except for elected officials. So current policy is that they can't give. So it shouldn't be retro because they can't.
They can't give, but some have, correct?
That would be up to, I mean, I know of one county employee that gave the last time I looked when we were discussing this item in 2023.
I know of two that have given recently.
As is their right
Well,
per courts.
no, I understand, but that's not the policy, our current policy. So anyway, okay, so I don't think that there's any retro because right now they're not allowed. Okay, so Supervisor Scott, then Supervisor Hines?
But I just wanted to ask a question for clarity. Are we allowed to speak only to the motion to continue the item, or can we speak to the motion wholesale?
Either.
I believe you can speak to the motion, period.
So I'm not going to vote for this today, and I'm not going to vote for it in January. I appreciate Supervisor Christie's point, but I'm going to be a no in January if I'm lucky enough to be reelected, because adopting this item means it doesn't just mean that county employees can contribute to political campaigns. It means that county elected officials, all county elected officials, can solicit contributions from county employees. Now, I have right around 350 individual contributors to my current campaign, and there were a handful of them who went onto my website and say, well, I think Rex Scott's a good guy and I'm going to give him a contribution. But the vast majority of them, I asked them, or somebody representing me asked them to make a contribution. And there are many potential negative ramifications from allowing supervisors and row officers to solicit from our employees. And it's going to put both direct and indirect pressure on the close to 7,000 people who work for Pima County. Even if they're not solicited for a contribution, a county employee may feel compelled to give one if they worry about how the elected officials might feel if they don't. We recently removed the requirement that county employees have to take leave if they want to run for office. We have a situation right now in one of our departments where the incumbent row officer and an employee of that department are both seeking to be the new row officer. Adopting this measure may create a situation where employees donate to one candidate but not the other. That might exacerbate tensions within that department. In departments where elected officials or their deputies do employee evaluations or consider promotions, there could be favoritism or retaliation based on contributions made or not made. And even though we have non-retaliation policies, and I know that, it can still happen if someone acts unscrupulously. The bottom line is I admire the motives that caused Supervisor Lee to put this matter forth. I think free speech and choice should be supported, but I'm concerned with the direct and indirect pressure this change would put on our employees and the potential for unethical behavior by elected officials. So I'm a no today, and I'll be a no in January if I'm back on this dais.
Thank you, Supervisor Hines.
So look, it's not constitutional. Like, I don't, whether I like or don't like our policy, and Sam Brown, you can hopefully back me up on this, this is not consistent with the First Amendment. Like, multiple other courts at other levels have found you cannot do this. So the reason I brought it last year and the reason I seconded this motion is because, yes, there could be some undue pressures. There shouldn't be. I've never asked my staff for contribution, nor will I, but we can't, as a county, infringe upon the First Amendment rights of our employees like this. We just cannot do it. So I believe this has already been basically is essentially nullified and unconstitutional. So this is, in my view, just simply aligning county ordinance and policy with the expressly stated opinions of other courts. And I'd love to hear Mr. Brown's opinion as well.
Mr. Brown.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Hines, just to be clear, so the AG has opined on this. This has not gone through the court system yet. The AG opined on the contribution side, not the solicitation side, the constitutionality of that. So it's an open question. It could be decided by a court. It could be challenged. So as of right now, all we have is an AG opinion, not a court order necessarily.
And that opinion is?
That the contribution ban is unconstitutional.
I see. Thank you.
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
I would just point out that AG opinion has already been shared with the board, and Mr. Huckleberry, who was the county administrator at the time, said that we could act on it if we chose to, but that we were not obliged to because it was an AG opinion, and that was an opinion from the previous Attorney General, not the current one. And given that, is that accurate, Mr. Brown, that we could act on that opinion or choose to not act on that opinion? That's correct. So I don't think we're being told to do anything by the courts. We have an opinion from the previous Attorney General. It was brought forth by a constituent of Supervisor Lee's who advocates for us to change this policy, but we're not obliged to do that. And again, I would just ask my colleagues to consider the direct and indirect pressure that employees are going to feel if we make this change in policy.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so this is a motion, substitute motion to move this discussion to January. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No. Item fails 2, 3. So we're going to go back to the original motion, which is to vote on this item as it is. Any other discussion? Okay. Supervisor Hines.
So we could remove the solicitation side of things and then make it enacted in January. Maybe that would help.
I don't know that, well, that wasn't why I was voting no. I think it makes sense. Same with the Hatch Act for federal employees. That was one of the things that I thought was really beneficial here, is that there isn't, we work with a lot of departments, and I'm just going to speak for our office. We work with a lot of departments. A lot of employees could feel pressure to, oh, I like her and I'm going to give her, that kind of thing. And I I think it's safer to not put anyone under that position. And if, somebody wants to help or something like that, I mean, anyone can participate in helping somebody, but I think it's the contribution angle that is difficult for me to move forward with.
Okay.
And it's the same argument that I had in June, so. Okay, anyway, we have a motion and a second to approve the item and moved by Supervisor Lee and seconded by Supervisor Hines to move this item. We'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Christie.
No.
Supervisor Hines.
Yes.
Supervisor Lee.
Yes.
Supervisor Scott.
No.
Chair Grijalva.
No, item fails 2-3, with Supervisors Lee and Hines voting in favor. Okay. Now we are going to item number 4. This is the Pima County Housing Trust Fund funding options. This is an item brought forward by Supervisor Hines.
Great, thank you. This actually comes from an item that I brought, I don't know, several meetings ago. And the discussion at that time was to have this referred to our Affordable Housing Commission, since they've been impaneled to obviously review these kinds of things on behalf of this board. They quickly took up this and actually several other items that had been discussed with regard to housing at that time. And what this was one of their 3 recommendations is to direct staff basically to review potential options and come back to this board with potential options to have a dedicated funding source for affordable housing going forward. And so I've brought that back for approval of this board.
Okay.
And would like to move this item.
And just to, I'll second. So the item was moved by Supervisor Hines and I seconded. So this is basically just to work with the Regional Affordable Housing Commission to look for options for, is that correct?
It's actually, it has gone through them, and that one of their recommendations is to have our staff look for options to find dedicated funding for.
So this is administration?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. And then it says at least 10 million. So right now in our budget, we have 5 million. So it's essentially doubling that. Or is this an additional 10?
This would be working to double that and to find a
to double the
dedicated
5.
source.
And,
Yes.
Okay. So this is just getting information from administration and legal, I'm assuming. So I'm comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
Yeah.
Supervisor Scott, then Supervisor Christie.
We may, at some point in the future, have a need for a housing trust fund. That's certainly one of the options that may be considered. But I have shared with Ms. Lesher several times my frustration with the fact that the Regional Affordable Housing Commission has yet to come up with a long-range strategic plan for increasing the stock of affordable housing, workforce housing, marketplace housing in this county. They may be able to move forward with that now that I see that the RFP for the dashboard is moving forward, and that they're going to be able to do the needs assessment that frankly should have been a priority early in their tenure. But this commission needs to do some substantive long-range planning before they decide, well, we need a housing trust fund. I'm certainly willing to entertain the possibility that one may be needed, but until they are doing the kind of long-range strategic planning that they have not undertaken, but have more of the capacity to undertake now that this dashboard is moving forward, I can't support this item because I feel that it is putting the cart before the horse. And I'm appreciative of the fact that we have made Ms. Darland an ex officio member of the Regional Affordable Housing Commission, because I'm hoping that with that additional staff direction that the commission can get back to the original charges that they got from the county administrator when it was formed, that date back to the recommendations from the task force that predates the commission.
Supervisor Christie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Several basic issues that I have that are most troubling is, first of all, to establish a county housing trust fund is not the role of government, first. And secondly, government created the affordable housing crisis in the first place with its land use policies and limitless regulations, and now more government and more money is needed to fix it? I don't think so. So I'll be voting no on this.
Thank you. I do think that we have a housing crisis in Pima County. I am not opposed to getting more information about how we would be able to build a dedicated funding source for housing. It's something that this board, after recommendations, could consider taking action on or not. But the other is that we have $5 million that we've dedicated for the last 3 years that I don't believe we've leveraged in the way we could with trying to get grants and other opportunities and using it as a match. And so if I'm wrong, I'd be so happy. And if not, then this would be something where, like, yes, we did put in for a grant and we did utilize this as a matching funds, the $5 million that we've dedicated to housing. That amount is negligible. We knew that it was not ever going to be enough to really have a significant impact for the size of our community, but the hope was that once we had that line item established, that we were going to utilize it as leverage. And so I'd really like us to also explore that. And if we have done that, then please let me know, and I will be in the mic thanking everyone who put in those proposals and say, I'm totally happy that I was completely wrong. Supervisor Lee.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. Supervisor Scott and I just came back from a tour with Primavera, and as you know, they do fantastic, amazing things. But they've shared with us. They've purchased a old hotel. They're in the middle of revamping it to have affordable housing for families, and they're looking at land adjacent to them to build for Women Transition Center, perhaps. So one of the things that I'd like us to explore, and we have another upcoming meeting with Jen Darland and Steve Holmes, we're going there to talk with them about potential partnerships. I really think there are grants to be leveraged, and we should look at partnering whenever we can. The only part of this that I have trouble is, where do you get the $10 million trust fund? We did not, in fact, I know there's a lot of individuals that said we raised taxes, but we did not. And we have a flat tax, so they're not going to see it on their bill. And therefore, we have we don't have money this year, and we have to be very careful. So I do believe that we should do what Supervisor Hines said with regards to making sure that we're supporting our Affordable Housing Commission, but dedicating $10 million until I see where it's coming from, I don't know if I can support that piece.
Yeah, and I think I'm just, absolutely, and I'm just, from what I understand, and then I'll turn it over to Supervisor Hines, I believe it's just exploring what those options could be. And part of that could be the grants that I was talking about, but it would come back to us and we would make a decision. The other thing is that when we first allocated this funding, we had to sort of try to fly the plane while it was already in the air. So we were trying to figure out, like, how are we going to do this? And perhaps it isn't a perfect system, and perhaps we can explore some other options if we allocate more funding. It's just, I just think it's important for us to continue to be part of the solution for affordable housing in Pima County. Supervisor Hines.
And just to be clear, this is not a dedicated $10 million. This is the $10 million number comes from discussions in the commission's meeting. It's a number that they put forward as well as a goal. And this is asking staff to help look at ways to develop develop ways, pathways, maybe grants, matching to find the dedicated funding at a level of ideally 10 million, possibly more, and to come back to us in September with what they found. But this isn't like, we're not voting to dedicate more money right this second to do anything. We're just saying, can you help us to look at legal ways to find a dedicated amount of dollars to put into a housing trust fund and then bring us back those options in a few months?
Thank you. All right, so any
Chair
other,
Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott?
Thank you. I've supported the money in our budget the last 2 years for gap funding. I may indeed down the road support the creation of a housing trust fund, but I really want to restate in the strongest possible terms that there needs to be more direction given to this commission to go back to their original charges, which I just don't feel that they have ever addressed holistically, which is why I can't support this item at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Okay, and this is to approve the direction as listed. Supervisor Christie,
No.
Supervisor Hines,
Yes.
Supervisor Lee,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
No.
Chair Grijalva.
Yes. Item passes 3-2 with Supervisors Christie and Scott voting no. Okay, now we're on item number 6 and 7. This is the appointment of, for the Board of Health and also the State Board of Equalization. I'll go ahead and move 6 and 7.
Second?
A motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously 5-0. Is that the end of our meeting, everyone?
Yay!
Yay! Everyone have a great holiday. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.